Reports are coming in that hundreds have been injured in fresh clashes in Jerusalem. Police have fired stun grenades and tear gas at stone-throwing demonstrators inside the Al-Aqsa Mosque compound. Plans to evict Palestinian residents from East Jerusalem to make room for Jewish settlers have fueled protests that escalated over the weekend. And today, tensions are particularly high as Israel is marking Jerusalem Day, the anniversary of when Israeli troops captured East Jerusalem in 1967. Amid growing international calls for calm, the UN Security Council is holding an emergency session to discuss the situation.
Confrontation and escalation. It's an entrenched pattern of behavior between Jewish Israelis and Arab Palestinians who make claims to the same land. This time the hatred flared at the Damascus Gate, at the entrance to the Old City. Ownership of land is at the heart of the bitter dispute. The prospect of forced evictions of Palestinians from East Jerusalem has brought Arabs to the streets. Over the past 2 weeks, hundreds of them have been injured as Israeli police cracked down on the demonstrations. On Sunday, they were out again, ahead of a controversial Jerusalem Day march through the Old City. Hardline Israeli nationalists used the annual event to celebrate the capture of East Jerusalem by Israeli forces in the 1967 war. Israeli security officials warn it could lead to a further escalation in violence.
And we're joined by our correspondent in Jerusalem, Tanya Kramer. Tanya, that contentious march is expected to take place by Israelis today in Jerusalem. How much potential is there for the violence to escalate?
Well, as you said, it's a very difficult day in Jerusalem. Israelis celebrate Jerusalem Day, which marks the capture of East Jerusalem in 1967 and the reunification of Jerusalem. But that is, of course, from an Israeli point of view. Palestinians want to see East Jerusalem as their future capital, and they see this as a provocation. It's a very difficult day. Usually the route goes through East Jerusalem to through Palestinian neighborhoods, through one of the main gates, Damascus Gate, and then through the Muslim Quarter. Now, we understand that Israeli security officials even have warned that under the current circumstances that the route, at least, or the route should be changed, but we haven't heard anything to that regard. What has been decided is to close the Temple Mount, or the Haram al-Sharif, with the Al-Aqsa Mosque to those Israeli marchers. These are usually national, religious, very right-wing people marching through the Old City. But we are seeing also this morning very heavy confrontations between Palestinian youth. Eyewitnesses are saying that the Israeli police is using stun grenades and tear gas, and Palestinian youth are throwing rocks. And according to the Red Crescent, there are dozens of injured already. It's a developing situation, and we will be surely looking at that, giving you more on that during the day.
You mentioned those confrontations, Tanya. We've got some live pictures that we're going to play now from Jerusalem that's showing what's happening right now. We've been seeing these clashes in Jerusalem for several days now. What is fueling them?
Well, there are several reasons. That is, it has been tense in the city for at least the past 3 weeks, starting, with Israeli police putting barriers in one of the central plazas in East Jerusalem in front of Damascus Gate. We had also a march of ultra-far-right Jewish extremists on East Jerusalem 2 weeks ago. But there's also another issue that is fueling those tensions, is the potential eviction of 4 Palestinian families from one of the Palestinian neighborhoods in Sheikh Jarrah in annexed East Jerusalem. We have been talking to one of the daughters of one of the families. They are facing eviction in favor of Jewish settlers. Let's have a look. Muna Al-Kurd is documenting everything that happens here for social media. Her family is one of 4 families facing eviction from their homes in the Palestinian neighborhood of Sheikh Jarrah in East Jerusalem. Right-wing settlers could soon move in here. This is our life. As Palestinians, we are the owners of the land. We lived here legally, and everything is documented legally. They come here and occupy the place, and they want to occupy what remains of the neighborhood. This part of their house has already been taken over by Jewish settlers a decade ago, just like across the street where settlers moved into this house. They claim parts of this neighborhood is actually their land and have waged a lengthy court battle against the families.
It belonged to Jews for almost 100 years. Jews lived there, and Jews own the land since then. Nothing changed, besides one thing, that the Arabs suddenly decided that they are the owners of their land, of the property. And they decided not to accept the Jewish ownership.
Like other Palestinian families who live in this neighborhood, they were resettled here by Jordan and the UN after the Israeli-Arab War in 1948. They'd lost everything after being displaced at that time. Israeli law prevents them from claiming their lost properties. Unless the Supreme Court allows a new appeal, there are no other legal options for the family. It's very painful, very tiring, psychologically speaking. We are exhausted. Each one of us has packed a bag with the most important papers, passport, identity cards, anything important like certificates from school and university, in case they evict us, and that's what we need to take with us. At sunset, residents and supporters come together to break their Ramadan fast. Soon after, skirmishes break out. At some point, armed riot police harshly disperse the crowd, arresting some of the Palestinian protesters. The eviction battle over the homes is like a symbol of what's at stake in the Israeli-Palestinian conflict.
Tanya, families like the one in your report have been awaiting a court decision on whether or not they're going to be evicted. That decision, I understand, has been postponed. Why?
Well, exactly, that's what happened. The Supreme Court, or the High Court of Justice in Israel, has postponed the hearing that was scheduled actually for today from last week. And they could have made a potential decision on this pending eviction in favor of this Jewish settler organization who claims the land. Also, the Attorney General of Israel has submitted to postpone the hearing to weigh in on the case. Now, this gives the families a brief respite, so to speak. They can stay in their homes for now, but it doesn't actually cancel the decision by a lower court that already authorized the eviction after a lengthy court battle by this Jewish settler organizations back in February. So basically, it doesn't also change the root causes. We heard it in the report about this very controversial legislation. And there are also other families in the middle of court proceedings that are facing pending eviction, that are under threat of eviction in the coming months.
Tanya, thank you very much. That was our Jerusalem correspondent, Tanya Kramer.